Gonna be live streaming some Sega Genesis games off the Sega Genesis Mini. First and foremost, happy birthday to Sega, celebrating 60 years. I've been a Sega fan literally as far back as I can remember. I grew up with the Sega Genesis. I also played the Sega Saturn a little bit as a kid. I loved the Sega CD, the Sega Dreamcast. Oh my gosh, I love that system, and Sega keeps making good games-ish, depending on who you ask. But we're going to celebrate tonight playing some Sega games. Why not? Hope you guys are doing okay. Hope things are going well for you. I don't have an agenda here. I'm just going to play what I feel like playing tonight, and I'm going to enjoy myself and talk all things Sega, talk about Sega, the past, the future, and just my thoughts in general on Sega. What's up, Eric? Virtual Fighter 2 Speedrun. I'd rather not play that hot garbage. I don't know why they put that on the system anyway. Let's start off with an actual, really popular Sega title. Let's just get it off with Sonic. Why not? How's it going, Charlie Brown? Hope you're doing alright, buddy. I've been celebrating Sega all day, pretty much. Yeah, Eric, I've heard that rumor as well. Virtual Fighter 6 could be on the way. But I have literally been covering Sega stuff all day. I talked about... oh my gosh. And I still don't know how I feel about this. The Sega Game Gear Micro. I'm still scratching my head about that one, because if you want to play all 16 games, you have to pay close to $200. Alright, now I understand the collectability of those things and all that, but to me, it's not worth it. And it's not like the Sega Game Gear was all that popular anyway. What's up, Extreme Vintage? How you doing? So, I don't know. I really don't know how to feel about the whole Sega Game Gear Micro thing. At first, I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. The price is right. It's going to have somewhere between 15 and 20 games. That's what I was thinking. And, honestly, I'm not too surprised by Sega. They have never really made that great of decisions, if you will. So, yeah, it is what it is. Also, I read... I was going to make a video, but I'm going to tell you guys, I'm making a video a day, if not more. In the past 24 hours, I've made 3. The live streams don't get me, but making content, oh snap, can be difficult. Yes, I have more free time, but I want to make sure the quality of my content is good. And yeah, I didn't want to cover that stupid story. It was, it's called the Fog or something. I read up on it a little bit, and apparently Sega is going to be, it's kind of like how we have cloud services, but for their arcade games, I guess. And let me backtrack just for a second. Yeah, thank you, Charlie Brown. There's actually a protest that's happening about 2 blocks south of my house, and it's very peaceful. It's pretty small and chill. It's in a city park, and we went and kind of observed a little bit. We drove by a couple times just to check it out, you know, history and all that in your hometown. So yeah, but my town's pretty tame, and I think they're gonna do it right, as it should be. I'm near Columbia, Missouri, and yeah, there were a few mishaps there, but for the most part, it's been peaceful unless I've been misinformed. I'm not sure at this point. I've been trying to keep up on it, but yeah. So back to the Sega Fog thing. It's like you're able to live stream Sega's arcade games or something. I don't fully understand it. It sounds kind of wacky to me. But arcades in Japan are still a really big thing. And it might be in response to the coronavirus and all that going down too. I'm not sure if it's something that they were working on before the pandemic. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, that's supposedly is their big groundbreaking news. That's as big as the PlayStation 5 reveal. Yeah, kind of crazy. Yeah, be safe, Charlie. I've heard that it's pretty rough there. I almost did a spin dash. You know, I've been trying to keep to myself. I will never ever talk about anything political on this channel. I'll keep those thoughts to myself. But it was a big injustice, and you know, just a bad deal all around. Okay, and that's all I'm gonna say about that. Again, this channel, the focus is retro video games, and you know, I want to try to help people get their minds off of things for a while. That's kind of some of my purpose, and connecting with people. That's my other big purpose for this channel. And oh crap. So I am getting all the Chaos Emeralds early. Ah, come on. Rotate. It wouldn't rotate, gosh dang it. Sorry, I'm trying to focus for a second. So that, I will never go political on here. And usually, typically, I kind of keep my politics to myself and my family and my very close friends. And that's just a personal thing. And that's my right. That's my choice. You know, being a teacher as well. I'm very open about being a teacher on this channel. That's something I always consider. I teach government. And that's something that I always think about when I am doing anything, really. You know, not that I can't speak out or say something and stand up for something I believe in. It's just, I feel like it's my right as a government teacher to be a little conservative in that area. And that's just not who I am anyway. My personality is just not that way. Even though I speak out against like Billy Mitchell and what's going on in the video game world and all that stuff, you know, but that's different. That's fun, and then that's not all that serious. And you know, I share my disgust with video game companies and stuff because I love a lot of those video game companies, and I just know that they can make better decisions. Like, you know, Sega, for example. Oof. Aw, dang it. I screwed that up. What's up, video game lover? How you doing, buddy? Hope you played some Sega today. I am. You know that old adage from Atari, have you played Atari today? Well, I'm playing Sega today. Enjoying myself. Had a nice couple of walks today. and did some videos, edited some videos, and now enjoying some Sega Genesis. And I won't play Sonic the entire stream. I wanted to start the stream off right. Now, I did something kind of funny. So I did a review today. I released a review today. Sonic the Hedgehog 2. And that's no big deal. You know, it's part of my 30-day review challenge that I'm doing for the month of June. And wanting to review 30 games in 30 days with different themes. And I guess I forgot I reviewed Sonic the Hedgehog 2 with the Sega Genesis Mini. And I've reviewed it twice. But in my defense, this review, and I'm tempted to make my other review, my older review, unlisted. I haven't decided what I'm going to do there. But, dang it. I missed it. Got it. So we'll see. I have 2 Sonic the Hedgehog 2 reviews on my channel right now. Isn't that wild? Now, they're pretty similar, which is funny. I mean, not funny. It's not wild to think that it's not too different. But this newer one has more polish. And I've learned how to edit better, of course. And using better editing software, a better microphone. So, yeah. You can go watch them if you want. What's up, Josh? How you doing? Alright, so let's play something else. Alright, so that's Sonic 1. I love Sonic 1. I'm not playing every single game today. What do I want to play next? Let's play another Sega game. For the heck of it, Gunstar Heroes. Now, this is one of the games that's going to be on one of the Game Gear Micros. Not this game, but the Game Gear version. So, I don't know. I'm still, like, really conflicted about the whole thing. I'll quit talking about the Game Gear Micro. You guys can watch my videos and check out my thoughts there. Let's go fix shot. Which one do I like? That one. I've actually live streamed this and beat it on my channel. This is a lot of fun. Maybe this was a bad choice. Oh my gosh. What is going on? I am not doing good. What is going on here? Why am I not doing good? Oh my gosh. I'm almost tempted to switch to a different game. In fact, I think I will. I don't know what's going on there. I don't know if I messed with the settings. The controls are being like really, really funky for some reason. Let's play some Road Rash 2. Why not? Road Rash 2 is pretty awesome. I actually just live streamed this not too long ago. I'm just gonna play it. There's no big... Dang it. I played this, I played the Sega CD version on a stream recently. Of all things. Now this doesn't look too bad, really. for what it is. I remember this being like more pixely. Am I imagining things? What place am I in? I'm in 10th. Man, I had a lot of fun playing this game as a kid. I had a buddy that I lived next to. He owned this game, and I begged him to play this game all the time. He had this, and he had Metroid, of all things. And we would play Metroid like it was nobody's business on the NES. And I don't know why I remembered that per se. I guess because we did it so much. And he had a few other Sega games, but I don't remember what else we played. Maybe some sports games. I got the whip, the chain. So yeah, now Road Rash is kind of a forgotten franchise, but I think... Oh, snap. Ooh, I almost wrecked. I think it could be brought back if done correctly, done right. I mean, if you think about it, Tony Hawk 1 and 2, those games are getting remastered. And, you know, to me, it just seems like there's a lot of nostalgia for the 90s right now. And people are starting to really appreciate the 90s again. I'm a huge 90s nostalgia nerd, I guess, if you will. Dang, I wrecked really far. Man, I really went far. That's crazy. Alright, here we go. That's the problem. When you get knocked off, it's almost unfair to catch up. So yeah, there's a huge nostalgia. If you watch The Last Dance, Michael Jordan and the Bulls, when they won their last championship, oh my gosh, I felt for like I binge watched it. I didn't watch them when they were released, so I binge watched the entire series in about a week. Well, not a week, actually like 3 days. And I felt like I was in the 90s again, man. It was so much fun watching that and just kind of reliving that Michael Jordan era when Michael Jordan was king. And, you know, I wasn't ignorant of Michael Jordan as a kid. I liked Michael Jordan a lot. I got 4th place. So, yeah, let's do another game. What should I play next? I'll take requests if you guys want. I don't mind. I'm probably going to steer clear of the RPGs for the most part. I'm not going to start live streaming Phantasy Star 4 for crying out loud. So, Monster World 4. This is one I haven't really played a whole lot of. So, let's give this one a whirl. This one was not released in the United States. Continue. Let's just do a new game. Now, Monster World and all that, it's pretty fun. It's a good series. I didn't really play it as a kid, so yeah. Charlie Brown, that's a good question. I really don't think so. I think the idea of having a Nintendo 64 Classic Edition would be cool. Nintendo, I'll give you 2 reasons. Okay? Nintendo has come out and said that they're not really going to do that. And they want to focus more on the future. So they've said that. And then a more feasible reason, if you think about it, okay? So if you have a little mini system, I'm looking at my Sega Mini right now, okay? And yeah, my controller is about as big as the Sega Genesis Mini. But it's going to be really, really expensive for Nintendo to produce a bunch of Nintendo 64 controllers. Okay. Now you would probably have to pay somewhere between $100 and $120 or more for the Nintendo 64 Classic Edition, and you're probably only going to get somewhere between 20 and 15 games. You know, somewhere like in that range. And honestly, the N64 wasn't that popular. Okay, yeah, I know a lot of people enjoy it today, and I'm a huge fan of the Nintendo 64. I have a complete set, so that's where I'm at with it. What's up, Grim? How you doing? Haven't heard from you in a long time. Hope things are going well for you. I'm just enjoying some Sega Genesis on the 60th birthday of Sega's birthday. The 60th anniversary of Sega's birthday. So yeah. Alright, I want to play the game. I want to get past this area. Maybe I should have just continued. I have one. Grim, I do. Alright, here we go. But I still gotta have these little mini consoles. You know, as much as I don't like the micro Game Gear, I'm gonna get one, at least one, especially for that price tag of $46. You gotta get it, right? I mean, yeah, we'll see. There might be some different games on it for the United States release. I don't know. We'll see. What's up, Elijah? How you doing, buddy? Hope things are going well for you. Hope you're having a good night. So, one thing I wanted to do with this live stream is I wanted to talk about, you know, just some memories I have with Sega growing up, and just some of my favorite things about Sega in general. Nice, Grim. So, one of my favorite memories growing up, and I kind of shared this in my Sonic the Hedgehog 2 review today that I released. And it's a very special memory, and I think it's why I love retro video games so much. Oh, snap. I ran really... Oh, you can run in this game. Forgot about that. Christmas morning, 1993. That was a very special day for me. A, I got my very first console, and B, it was the Sega Genesis. I begged my parents to get a Sega Genesis for probably the better part of that year. My friend had one. I would go over to his house and play Sonic the Hedgehog 1 all the time. He didn't have Sonic 2 yet. Yeah, yes, that's how much it's going to cost. How you doing? JPGRA? So, yeah, I remember getting that Sega Genesis. My parents kind of tricked me in one of the earlier... I just died. One of the earlier presents. One of the earlier presents I got for that Christmas morning was a Sega Genesis controller, just a loose one. Not much. How you been? Let's play something else. This controller is so slippery. And they tricked me a little bit. And I don't want to play that, do I? Let's play some Bloodlines. So, long story short, I finally get this thing, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, packed in, and oh man, I was so happy to have my own system, to have my first video game system that I can say was mine and mine alone. Everything else I had to share. I had to share with my brother. And that's not a problem, but it's not the same. If that makes any sense. And I still have that Sega Genesis. Nice. I still have that Sega Genesis in my collection to this day. Yeah, Grim. What were they thinking? Seriously. Like, for real. I mean, I would have taken I don't know, like an arcade collection or something, or a Dreamcast collection, or I mean, I would have taken a 32X collection over that. These controls feel weird for some reason. Alright. I gotta get used to this again for some reason. It's feeling a little strange. So, it is what it is. Yeah, you know, I would probably lose it too. Oddly enough, I have my Game Boy Advance Micro. I've had it for years and years. Never lost it. That thing's pretty cool though. I just keep it with all my Game Boy stuff. I think, honestly, I'm just going to tell you the truth, Grim. I would probably just buy it, try it out, make a video for YouTube, and the Micro, yeah. It would probably sit on my shelf. I'm just being completely honest with you, Grim. Yeah, a Game Gear collection would have been cool. I'm not gonna lie. Or like, you know, they had this video, or not video, this game. It was gosh dang it, it was on the GameCube. I believe it was on the PlayStation 2. Hidden Gems, or I can't remember the exact title of it, but it was like really strange and random Sonic games, and it's games that you wouldn't expect to have in a collection, especially like today. I would like them to do something like that for like the Sega CD and the 32X, and then you do like a sequel. You do it in 3 parts, okay? Kind of like what Atari did. Atari, they had these 3 collection, these volumes, 3 volumes, that they had of Atari games. And they had 7,800 games, 5,200 games, 2,600 games, and actually arcade games. So this is what I think Sega could do, but I really highly doubt that they will. They could do it'd be obscure titles, all right? Not obscure, but not as popular, but people would want to play them, I should say. If that makes any sense. Oh, snap. Gosh dang it. I think my problem is I'm used to playing this game on the PlayStation 4. Aha. And I'm talking at the same time. I'm not really focusing a whole lot. Got him. Oh, gosh dang it. So, yeah, you're right. You're right, Grim. So, the first volume, you could have Sega CD and then, like, 32X games. Alright, and you could have like 30 games. Alright, 15 from each system, not even 15 from the 32X. Maybe like 5 from the 32X. Because the 32X is garbage. Here's the thing. I don't want to say it's garbage because I love the 32X, but I'm saying like it bombed. Alright? And when I say it's garbage, that's a relative statement because I absolutely love the 32X. I'm a 32X collector. I'm not going for a complete set or anything. So when I say that, you have to consider how poorly it performed and sold. Okay, that's what I'm saying by that. I'll have to check that out. Thanks for the tip, Grim. Mine, I think it's a Raspberry Pi 3. I could be mistaken. Gosh dang it. Why does the control feel so funky right now? And then the third volume, I'm trying to finish my thought finally. You would have, just have Sega Saturn games on there. I mean, you could pick 20 games. And that would be fine, I think. And then the third set would be Dreamcast and have 20 games for that. And you could, I mean, $40 or $30 a piece. It just depends. I think that would be a fair price. And then you'd sell the whole thing for $60 eventually, you know. So that's something I would have liked over the stupid micro, I'm just going to say. And here's the thing. I love Sega Game Gear. I grew up with the Sega Game Gear. And I adored the Sega Game Gear. Oh, I'm just getting away from him. It can't play this image. So, yeah, anything would be better than what they announced, okay? Gosh dang it. What the heck? I'm not focused tonight at all. I'm usually able to get through this pretty easily. Oh my gosh. Now, let's talk about the Sega Game Gear and my experience with the Sega Game Gear. Oh my gosh. I'm already getting ready to die. So my parents, it was actually after, it was the Christmas after I got my Sega Genesis. Okay, so I think 1994, that time frame. Man, I'm doing pitiful. Like, for real. I'm gonna die. How many lives do I have? 2? Okay. You don't see what I'm playing? One second. Can you hear my voice? Okay, hold on. Sorry about that. I've been having some trouble with my live streaming lately. I don't know what's been going on. Now I can't see my screen. Huh. That's odd. Can you guys see the screen now? One second. I'm not able to see it on my TV while I play, so that's going to be a problem. One momento. This is quite embarrassing. I think this will be an easy fix. So I don't want to stop live streaming. I want to keep playing. Now the screen's going to be blue. Just for a second. Now my screen. I might have to do an update for OBS. Once I'm done with this stream. Yeah, Grim, I agree with that. I agree 100% with that, man. I use the Roxio Game Cap HD Pro. That's what I've had for years. I'm considering upgrading. I'm going to try one more thing. Sorry for the delay, people. Usually I end the stream if I'm having difficulties. What's up, Terry? How you doing, buddy? So there's that. I got it back on the TV. See, if I close it out, though... Alright, here we go. I think it'll work. Maybe not. See, that's so weird. It's on my screen, or it's on OBS, but it's not on the screen on my TV. And that's a problem because there's lag. I guess I could try to play like this. It's like a second delay. Alright, can you guys hear me now? This is bad. See, I wish I could just play off of my computer, if that makes any sense. So I'm going to play something a little bit more simpler, maybe. Dang it. That's disappointing. I probably am going to have to update. And it froze again. Yeah, I probably need to upgrade. See, if I close OBS, I think it's going to close the stream. Thanks, Cerulean. Can you guys see this screen? It's just black right now. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do something funny. I'm going to do something kind of hilarious here. This is going to be pretty funny. Alright, because I still want to talk Sega.
So I hope you guys are having a good Friday. I hope your week went well.
I'm going to be talking this entire time, aren't I? Alright, so what I'll do... Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm doing this. So here we go. You guys are watching a live stream of a live stream. I'm sorry. I I'm gonna have to do something different with my streaming stuff. I don't know what's going on with it. Maybe it's just a simple upgrade or update on my OBS. And don't be confused by that picture of me in the corner. That is me, but that was in October of 2019 when the Sega Genesis Mini came out. This is actually one of my really popular live streams that I've ever done. Over like 1,000 views, and it's quite possibly one of my. It has the most minutes of any live stream. So while this is going on, I don't know how long I'll do this because this is kind of silly. I'm sorry, guys. I improvised for the most part. You know, Sega, it does mean a lot to me, but it has changed over the years for sure. I'm not sure where Sega's gonna go now. You know, this whole debacle. Yeah, it's pretty funny, right? This whole debacle with the micro. I don't know, man. And this whole news I've read about the fog. I don't know what they're thinking. I really don't. So it is what it is. Sega will never be as good as they used to be. I'm just gonna be completely honest with you guys. There's no way they can reach their Genesis glory days ever again. That's just my humble opinion. Grim, I've heard that rumor, and I don't think that that's going to be a viable thing. There's been rumors about Microsoft buying Sega or doing some kind of partnership with Sega. Now that still could happen, some kind of partnership, and that would be pretty cool. I would like to see some kind of streaming service for their older games, not just Sega Genesis games, because I can play Sega Genesis games pretty much on any system. So we'll see what happens. And I don't really think that Sega can capture those days again. Now, that was a very special time in video game history, if you will. And the technology wasn't as good, but it didn't matter as much, if that makes any sense. So you had your 16-bit graphic wars and all that. And Sega versus Nintendo, you know, Genesis does what Nintendo don't, all that stuff. And honestly, there's no way that they could recapture that momentum. The Dreamcast was a dream, and you know they were casting to try to compete with Sony. There's no way in heck that they could have competed with Sony. And I'm gonna tell you, it's not just the games or the specs of the system of the PlayStation 2, but the DVD function. All right, now I owned a Sega Dreamcast. My brother got one, $99.99. He waited in line to get one, and he got one in midnight release. And I remember he stayed home the next day from school, from work, and it is what it is. I mean, the Sega Dreamcast is very, very special, and I love the Sega Dreamcast, but it could not compete with the PlayStation 2. Not at all. It's kind of interesting what Sega did next. They the games that were supposed to be coming out on the Dreamcast, or games that were slated to come out on the Dreamcast, they were basically released on the Xbox. And that was kind of a cool little trend. So you got to see the continuation of some games, some series that started on the Dreamcast, and then they were basically put on the Xbox, the original Xbox, and then Nintendo. I'm gonna tell you, one day I thought I would never see in Sega history, and I was a die-hard Sega fan, like through and through. I mean, I'm still a huge Nintendo fan. I love Nintendo. Don't get me wrong. It's not like I wouldn't play Nintendo. I had a Super Nintendo, a Nintendo, and a Sega Genesis all at the same time, and a Game Gear, and then eventually a Game Boy Color. So, yes. So eventually, Sega and Nintendo, they started kind of working together. And when I saw that news, I'm not exactly sure the date. It was in the early thousands. I know that for sure. But I know that there were some Game Boy Advance games, some GameCube games that were Sega released. I couldn't believe it. It was like, I don't use profanity, and this isn't really profanity. It was like hell froze over. Okay, like, using that expression that the Eagles used when they said they would never tour together, when hell freezes over, and then they had their hell frozen over tour. Okay, so it was essentially like that, and I couldn't believe it. My mind was blown. And when I was playing Sega games on my Game Boy Advance and on my Nintendo GameCube, I couldn't believe it. And at first, I was like, I'm not even kidding. And at the time, I wasn't like really playing video games hardcore, if that makes any sense. Like, I kind of stepped away. It was my high school and college years, so I had other things on my mind. And obviously I was in college and I had a full-time job too. That kind of changes some of your habits and your hobbies, I guess, if you will, and you spend more time with friends. I know, Graham. Right, man. So when I heard the news, I was furious. Like, I was like, how dare they? Like, I felt betrayed. I felt like, really, like, seriously, Sega? You have betrayed the Sega fans from the Genesis era onward. The kid inside me. Change your name to Tony Hardcore Retro. Yeah, no, I know, right? So, yeah, I felt so, just so mad about it. But since then, Sega's kind of floundered around a little bit, in my opinion. Yeah, there's been some good releases, some good titles. Honestly, in my opinion, the best things that they've done have revolved around their retro catalog. And that's kind of sad. And I'm not saying that there haven't been, good Sega titles, like new titles. But honestly, I can't really think of a whole lot unless you guys can. I really enjoy Sonic Mania. Now, I'm going to be honest, I haven't played some of the newer Sega games, newer Sega releases. But Sega Mania is quite frankly my favorite, and I'm not even kidding, my favorite Sega game of all time. Yeah. I love Sonic Mania. Oh my gosh, it's so much fun. It's so good. There's a lot of nostalgia. Persona, is that a Sega game? Persona 5? And see, I'm going to be honest with you, Grim. I'm not going to say it's not good. I just haven't played it, if that makes sense. I'm very, very select in the games that I play. Yes, I'm an RPG fan, but I tried it. Yeah, Persona 5 is a big hit. Mr. Beast. Gosh dang it. It's funny. I'm monetizing on a monetization. Oh my gosh, it's an inception, for real. So Yeah, what are some other recent Sega hits? Yakuza? Is that how you say it? There was a recent sequel to that. Is that correct? Shimu 3. Shimu 3 was big, for sure. I enjoyed playing that. I did buy it and did play it a little bit. I haven't gotten to it too much. When they re-released Shimu 1 and 2, that was really cool. Atlas is Sega. Yep, you're right. Thanks, Grim. So, yeah. What else has come out recently? I'm gonna be honest though. I am more apt to their retro catalog. Obviously, that's kind of who I am. The Sega Mini was amazing. I enjoyed that. I thought it was much better than the PlayStation 1 Classic Edition. Blew it out of the water very, very easily. And it was on par with the Super Nintendo Classic Edition. The Super NES Mini is probably my favorite of the mini consoles. I'm just going to say. And then maybe the Sega Mini. That's kind of close behind it, in my opinion. And I really, really enjoyed the Sega Genesis Classics. Now, I honestly think you should buy this. It's only like $20 right now. On the Switch, on the PlayStation 4. I'm actually holding it in my hand right now. And also on the Xbox One and Steam, I believe. So I really recommend that you get that. There's 50 games on there, 50 plus games. And the games look gorgeous. They look amazing. I actually went out of my way a couple of summers ago. And no, was it last summer? I believe it was last summer, yeah. Last summer, I live streamed. No, it was 2 summers ago. Sorry. But I literally live streamed every single one of the games on the Sega Genesis Classics collection. That was a lot of fun, and I'm glad I did that. It was interesting to do that many games, to live stream that many games off of a collection. It's hard to do, but it's fun. Yeah, you can add more games to the PlayStation Mini. I've done that. I actually live streamed recently with my hacked PlayStation 1 Classic Edition. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, what are some of my favorite Sega games of all time? Well, I'm a big RPG guy, and I also love Sonic. I do love Sega. But Sonic, I'm a huge fan of Sonic the Hedgehog. Of course, I was a huge Sonic head. Sonic 1, 2, 3, Sonic and Knuckles. And then after that, I did play Sonic CD a little bit later. But after that, I kind of lost interest in Sonic. You kind of grow up and, move on to bigger things. But I've always enjoyed Sonic games on occasion, and I've always rebought stupid collections that Sega has put out, and that's still true to this day, for real. Yes, I'm going to get to Shining Force here in a second, Graham, for sure, man, and Phantasy Star. And I absolutely love Sonic and Knuckles, Sonic 3, quite possibly one of my favorite games of all time, and honestly, it's just one game. Sonic 3 was kind of an incomplete game, in my opinion, without Sonic and Knuckles. And then Sonic and Knuckles, you have the lock-on ability, which is amazing. By the way, you could put Sonic the Hedgehog 2 on and play as Knuckles in Sonic 2. And then if you put Sonic 3 on, you can play as Knuckles all the way through Sonic 3, which is what they originally intended. And then you can play, if you select Tails, and this is really cool, if you select Tails, because whenever I played Sonic and Knuckles, like just the standard game, I always wondered what's going on with Tails. But if you put Sonic 3 on, you can play as Tails all the way through Sonic and Knuckles. And I'm going to tell you, there was a lot of replay value with that particular game. I remember I saved up all of my paper route money just to buy Sonic and Knuckles. And I actually had friends come over and play it, and they were begging to play it. And I have another story about Sonic and Knuckles I want to share. And it's kind of a cool 90s nostalgia trip for me and for a lot of 90s kids out there. So my family, I want to say, I'm not sure when Sonic and Knuckles came out, but it was the summer before Sonic and Knuckles was released, okay? So you're talking July, it has to be 1994, I'm going to say July of 1994, maybe? I could be wrong, I might be off by a year. And anyway, my family and we went to Orlando, Florida for the summer, for a summer trip. And my mom and dad, they wanted to take us, my brother and I, to Universal Studios, the theme park. And going there alone was just really, really cool. And seeing, the back lot, we got to ride the King Kong ride, the Jaws ride. The King Kong ride's not there anymore. We got to ride the Back to the Future ride. No longer, well, it's been changed since the Jaws ride is still there, from what I understand. And then we also got to witness the Ghostbusters show. That's no longer there. Oh my gosh, that was amazing. So cool, awesome. I remember, like, if you're sitting in the auditorium there, and they had this cool effect where, like, supposedly a ghost is flying, over the ceiling or whatever, and they would sprinkle water on people, like it would sprinkle water on you, and it was supposed to be like ectoplasm. All right, so that was absolutely amazing to do, and just go check out some of the backlot stuff. I remember Casper just came out or was coming out or something. Casper the Friendly Ghost, the movie, which for some reason I was really, really obsessed with as a kid. Maybe because of Universal Studios. But we got to go check out the set there. And also the Psycho House that was there. And we got to watch it was an Alfred Hitchcock like live show thing. It was really cool, really neat. Anyway, let's get back to Sega and my cool story about Sonic and Knuckles. So I begged, and my parents knew it was there. I knew it was there. Everybody knew it was there. We went to Nickelodeon Studios. All right. And I'm just going to tell you guys, if it wasn't Sega or Nintendo related, I was obsessed with all things Nickelodeon. Like, I lived off of Nickelodeon. Rugrats, Are You Afraid of the Dark, Salute Your Shorts, Hey Dude, what else? Rocko's Modern Life, etc. I love watching even that really crazy show Wienerville. If you guys remember that was a wild show. Go check out some footage of that sometime on YouTube. There's some on there. It's a wacky, wacky show. And then, like, All That was really popular. I love that show. Clarissa Explains It All. That was another big, big hit. SpongeBob was a little later. It came out in 1999, but I kind of was not watching Nickelodeon at that time. I kind of moved on to MTV. Total Request Live and all that crap. The new wave, or the new, what was it, like, new metal, Korn, Limp Bizkit, and all that. I'm getting off track here, but yeah. So I was obsessed with Nickelodeon. So we got to take a tour of Nickelodeon, and as a kid in 1994 or 5, I can't remember the exact year. Oh my gosh, it was like going to Mecca for me back then. I'm just telling you, like, I was obsessed with it. And seeing that geyser at Nickelodeon Studios was absolutely amazing. Seeing that. And I'm going to get to that, Cerulean. Yeah, that's cool that you got to go. So we got to take a tour, and we got to see a few of the sets. We got to see the All That set. Now, seeing that in person, I didn't get to watch any of the shows live or anything, But seeing that in person was just bonkers to me. We also got to see the Gullah Gullah Island set, woohoo, right? You know? But at the very end of this tour, and you got to go through the building and all that, and it was pretty cool. What's up, Jeremy? How you doing? That would be cool, Grim. So at the very end of this tour, and I'm being very long-winded with this story. I know, I'm sorry. I feel like I have Stevie or Bubby here and I'm telling them a story. That's what it feels like. But they had this like game show set up at the end of this tour. And it was kind of like Double Dare and What Would You Do? Kind of, sort of. Like, it was set up like that. It wasn't filmed or anything. It was just for the people doing the tour. And there was a little contest. And I have photographic proof of this contest and me playing this game and competing against this person. But they were taking volunteers in the crowd to compete against each other. I rose my hand. And I was very, very adamant. And I got to play Sonic and Knuckles. And it was before it was released. It was before it came out. And the point was you had like 2 minutes or something. I'm not entirely sure. It might have been like 3 minutes or some kind of time limit. It wasn't that long to play the game. And the person with the high score won. Now, of course, I've been playing Sonic games literally all my life. Literally for a very, very long time. Not all my life, but you know what I'm saying. So I step up to the TV, the monitor, and both of our screens are on this huge, huge monitor. And it's not that big of a crowd, but enough to get you pumped up and psyched up and a little nervous. I was a bit nervous, I'm not gonna lie. But I stomped this kid in Sonic and Knuckles. I got a high score. I'm not sure how much I got, but I know I beat this kid without mercy because I was like, okay, Sonic, that's my game. I'm going to play this game and I'm going to beat this kid. So that's kind of my story about that. And Nickelodeon, oh man, that was some nostalgia for sure. Maybe I should put that on the channel, that story, and kind of talk about it and show some of my photos from that time. That might be a cool thing I do eventually, my trip to Nickelodeon Studios. And, from what I understand, Nickelodeon Studios, it's the Blue Man Group. Is that true? Is that where the Blue Man Group is housed? I've seen a few videos on YouTube. Adam the Woo, he did one. Yeah, I scared him, right? I humiliated him for life. That's funny, Grim. So I believe it is the Blue Man Group or something else. You can still go to the studio, but obviously it's not Nickelodeon Studio. I believe there's some kind of Nickelodeon Studios in California. I could be mistaken. Yeah, he's suffering big time from his loss at the hands of Retro Tony or pre-Retro Tony, Sonic and Knuckles. Now back on track here. Favorite Sega games. See, guys, I can keep a train of thought going for a long time. I'm a teacher, and thanks, Cerulean. I know how to trace rabbit trails and then come right back. So, favorite Sega Genesis games or Sega games in general. Phantasy Star 4 has got to be one of my all-time favorite games ever. Not just a Sega game. That's funny, Graham. That would be kind of crazy if something like that happened. If there was someone plotting their revenge against me right now, and I didn't know. I had no idea what was going on or anything like that. That'd be hilarious. My arch nemesis. Phantasy Star, absolute favorite RPG on the Sega. Maybe Shining Force 2 has a leg up on it, but they're kind of close to me. I love the story. I love the battle system. It's so good. Yeah, it's a little grindy, but it's pretty fun. Then you also have Shining Force 2. Shining Force 2, now I have a story about Shining Force 2 that I can share, and it's not as long as my Nickelodeon Studios story, okay? So I had this local rental store, and this is before I had a very disposable income and money to blow, and buying retro video games now. So I had a video store. It was called Total Entertainment, and it was probably about a half a mile from my house at the time, where we lived, and they had a ton of Sega games. They actually had Game Gear games to rent, of all things, and that didn't make sense to me. They had Sega Saturn, Dreamcast. They even had some 32X stuff, I remember, and Sega CD. So anyway, they had Shining Force 2, and the battery, and at the time I didn't know that much about video games and save batteries and all that. The save battery had run dry. Okay, so there were so many people that have rented that, and I probably helped with that at some point. There were so many people that played that game, and you just couldn't save with it anymore. So I would still rent this stupid game almost every weekend. I probably should have just bought it from them for real, but to me, I wasn't going to buy it because it wouldn't save. I would play Shining Force 2 until I couldn't sleep. Like if I was tired, I would try to stay up longer. I tried my dangest to beat that game without saving, because I couldn't save. That was my only way of playing it back then. And you got to think it's 1994 or 5 or something like that. And I have no resources. I don't have any internet resources hardly, and I have no idea what I'm doing there. So I would play that game till my eyes bled. I would beg my parents to let me go walk or ride my bike, probably ride my bike down to this rental store to rent Shining Force 2 as quickly as I could after my paper route, to rent the game. And I'd eat supper. I'd eat as quickly as I could, and after that I would go to my room, lock the door pretty much, and play Shining Force 2 all night. Now I would, if I was feeling tired and I needed to go to bed to sleep, or my parents said you need to go to sleep, I would leave my Sega Genesis on all night because I couldn't save. Now I'm pretty sure that wasn't a smart idea, a smart thing to do, and I didn't have there's some sort of like game save device you can put on your Sega and Super Nintendo. I read about those in some like EGM magazines, but at the time I had no idea about them, or I didn't have the money. And if I had the money, I'd probably just buy the game itself anyway. So I never beat the game as a kid, and I'm very, very disappointed about that. Or I was disappointed about that. I'm not disappointed now. And in high school, so we're talking probably 5-6 years later or so, I started getting this retro craze. We're talking 2002, 2003, 2004. This is before retro video games became really, really popular like they are today, and people trying to relive some nostalgia and enjoy, Nintendo, Sega games, Super Nintendo games, etc. So I got this really big craving for some Sega games. And I went out of my way. I had a job at this time, and, working and going to school at the same time. And I could afford a few games here and there. I was not collecting, all right? I was not to that point. I'm not going to. Now, I held on to all my games that I had as a kid, Okay, I had my original Atari 5200. I had my Super Nintendo games, my Sega, all my games, etc., and my PlayStation 2 stuff. Okay, and I just had this real big craving to play Shining Force 2. I remember driving to Columbia, Missouri on a Friday night, and I wasn't expecting it to be there. But I remember driving to Columbia, Missouri to Slackers. It was a used retro video game store. It still is around in Columbia, Missouri. In my opinion, it's not as good as it used to be. The prices have always been high. That's just the nature of a used video game store in general, retro video game store. So, eventually, we make our way there. And I actually buy a few NES games, some random ones. I wish I knew what I know now back then and just bought everything up. And who knows what rare games I could have got back then. But that's always something you have to think about and ignore. So I find, and I buy Shining Force 2 as a high school student. And, it was kind of uncool to play retro games or you never really heard about. And Sega and Nintendo and Super Nintendo were not really considered retro. It's kind of like, if you think about it, Wii and Wii U and then Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. I don't really consider those retro systems per se. Now, honestly, you can say anything that isn't current is retro. There's no true definition of what a retro video game is. Like, when does it start? You can make that argument either way. But at the time, they weren't like super old or like, in vogue or anything like that. But I remember and it had a good save battery on it. I remember in my spare time, I'd get off from work, I'd get home. I worked at a grocery store, Hickman's IGA. It's no longer in existence anymore. I'd get off probably about 10:30 every night, and I would come home and I would play Shining Force 2 until about midnight every night until I beat it. And that was very special to me to finally knock that off my bucket list. I was still really into RPGs, and at the time I played through Final Fantasy X, and then in college I played through Final Fantasy 12. That was one of my big playthroughs in college. I didn't play a whole lot of games in college. I really didn't have a whole lot of time with work and school. But yeah, that was one of my favorite memories in high school to be able to do that. I also beat Link to the Past during that time because, as a kid, those games, Zelda, RPGs, some RPGs, as a young kid, they're going to be kind of difficult. And to me, Link to the Past was kind of hard. And I remember being able to beat it without a strategy guide or any help online or anything like that. But this is not a Zelda video. This is a Sega video. And, I just have so many fond memories with that. I do really wish I could track down, and this is a pipe dream. This is why I would like a collection video, or collection video game, I should say, by Sega. I want to play Shining Force 3 so bad. And I understand that there were 3 parts to it, and we only got the first part. From what I understand, the other 2 were not translated because it sold very poor in the United States. And the Shining Force series right now, it's not what it used to be. From what I understand, it's more of an action RPG type of a series now. And I played a few of the newer games on the PlayStation 2. And I don't know. I don't know. What I really, really wish would happen, two things. And these are pipe dreams, never going to happen. They're just not popular enough to do this. I know Phantasy Star is more popular than Shining Force. I understand that. Obviously, you got Phantasy Star Online 2. That's been released recently. My buddy Joe Swope He's been doing some live streaming with that. So I really want a true retro sequel. I'm talking like Sega Genesis graphics. They could do it. Could be kind of like Sonic Mania. All right, it could be HD. Really good looking graphics, really good looking game. But I want a Phantasy Star 5, and I know that they kind of finished up the story with the end of the Millennium. I get that, but I want a true sequel to Phantasy Star 4, and I want another Shining Force game. Shining Force 4, if you will. And I want it to be in true, like, Sega Genesis style graphics, all that. I really, really want that. I think it would do well. I think people would respond well to it. Again, will it ever happen? I don't think so. I really don't. It's a pipe dream, like I said. But, yeah. What else would I want from Sega here in the future? Like I said, I would like some more collection videos, not depending on the Sega Genesis library so much. Yes, Cerulean. Yeah. Yeah, that's what they were originally going to plan. And the cutscenes that you see in Phantasy Star 4, they should have been like full FMV videos. But I kind of like that comic book style. But I see what you're saying, Cerulean. That would be kind of cool and neat to see. And yeah, I never really played Shining Force on the Sega CD. I have a little bit here and there. It's okay for what it is, but Shining Force 2 to me is an absolute awesome must-play type of game for sure. Now, what else would I like from Sega? Honestly, there's always been a lot of talk and speculation about a Dreamcast 2. And there's no way in heck that there will ever be a Dreamcast 2. Alright? As much as we want it, as much as I would like to see a Dreamcast 2, there will never be a Dreamcast 2. The market is too saturated. The market is too full of competition in order for Sega to do that. First off, it just wouldn't do well. Unless they were trying to do the strategy that Nintendo has in being different, and they can go back into direct competition with Nintendo, I guess, and trying to be different. But again, you got Nintendo. They're doing their own thing with the Nintendo Switch. Yeah, the graphics aren't super great. They're not as good as the PlayStation 4 or Xbox One. And then you got Sony with the PS4, and then eventually the PS5 is coming out. And I'm really bummed, of course, about Sony making that announcement that they're not going to... They held off their big PS5 reveal, but I understand it was a good call. A good call. I'm not criticizing them. I'm just saying I was bummed. Alright, they did it for a good reason. And then, of course, Microsoft. Microsoft seems to be quietly making a lot of great moves with their new system. And I'm actually kind of looking forward to seeing what they do. I would love to get a PlayStation 5 on release day. But again, I can wait a little bit. We'll see what happens. I don't know what Sega's going to do. I think third party is going to be the best option that they have. The best thing that they can do. And honestly, that's going to make them more money than if they say were to go first party or have their own system. So the Dreamcast 2 is not happening. As many rumors as people share and see and post on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, on YouTube. I've seen so many videos. The Dreamcast 2 is coming, and yeah, it's not gonna happen. And just enjoy those memories playing original Sega hardware. And if you never had that growing up, just track down a Dreamcast. They're not too expensive. Track down a Sega Genesis. They're fairly cheap, or get a Sega Mini. Also, I really don't recommend getting a Saturn. unless you're a hardcore collector or hardcore fan. The 32X, that's for the hardcore fans. I have one complete in box, and I enjoy it. I enjoy the games for it, but it's for those fans that either grew up with it and remembered it, or they're hardcore collectors. The Sega CD, kind of the same deal, kind of niche. There are better games on the Sega CD than the 32X. I'll say that. But you know, it's strange. It's a strange system, and the FMVs. Excuse me. The FMVs, I don't know. They just have not aged well. And then the Sega Genesis, like I said, is fairly cheap. And the Sega Master System, if you want to go back further, it's kind of another thing that collectors like to collect for. And yes, there are good games on there, and it was, in my opinion, a good competitor with the NES, but it just didn't have enough firepower. It didn't have enough third-party support. Nintendo kind of made a monopoly out of itself, and you know, basically you had to make games for Nintendo in the late 80s, early 90s, and Sega kind of figured that out. And then also the Game Gear, the last system I'll kind of talk about. I've kind of talked about it this entire stream. It's cheap. You know, you could probably find a system for like $40 or less. And usually when you find a system, it's going to have a few games. I know when I first started collecting pretty hot and heavy, now this is like 6 years ago or so, I bought a Game Gear lot, and there were 50 games with it and 2 systems. One of the systems wasn't working or something, and for some reason they had to buy another one, or I don't know the full story. I paid $50 for that lot. Now, I'm not saying you're going to find that particular lot on like Facebook Marketplace today, but they're out there. They're cheap. They're easy to get. And honestly, it'd probably be a lot cheaper for you to snag a Game Gear and the games you want than getting the Game Gear Micro. Okay, I just don't know, and I'm fighting this asparagus bush. I love fighting that asparagus bush. So yeah, now a Sega Mini or Sega Saturn Mini would be cool. But to be fair, the Sega Saturn didn't do well, and there's more fans of it, you know, today with the retro scene. And it's very, very collectible, and you know the prices of the games are very, very high. Some of them are, and I don't know. It would be cool because I would like to play some of those games that I never got a chance to play, like Panzer Dragoon Saga. That would be amazing. Shining Force 3, like I said. There's also a few other RPGs on there that I would love to sink my teeth into. Dragon Force was an interesting game. I think it was like a tactical RPG fighting game or something. I'm not entirely sure. And there's a ton of games on there that I would love to play. And Sonic Jam, that was a really cool idea. And that was really the only Sonic game besides like Sonic R and Sonic 3D Blast. I don't count those on the system. And the hub world was you were actually Sonic in 3D, and that was pretty cool. That's the closest we got on the Saturn, and they had an unreleased Sonic game on the Sega Saturn. I always saw screenshots and video and stuff like that, and I was really, really excited for that. And if that game probably came out, I probably would have tracked down a Sega Saturn. A buddy of mine, his older brother, he was really into sports games, and he thought it was really cool to play the Sega Saturn for some reason. He was probably about 4 or 5 years older than us at the time when we were like 12, And he had a Sega Saturn and probably close to like 50 games. This guy, he blew his money on Sega Saturn games like none other. And a lot of sports games, but there were some popular games on there, some stranger games on there that he had. He had Astel, of all things. I would love to play that game again. And then Mr. Bones. That's kind of a forgotten game and a really, really fun game. And we played this game, Blazing Dragons, I think that's what it's called. It's a point and click game. And ton of fun, a lot of fun, and it's very, very funny. So yeah, my hopes for Sega are big. As any Sega fan, their hopes are big and high for Sega to make good moves. Now, Sega, they're owned by the Sammy company, is that correct? And honestly, they're going to do everything within their power to make money off of Sega. And, example, the Sega Genesis Mini. That's a good example of them trying to make money and make a profit. So are they going to try to make big, gamble chances like they did in the 90s? Absolutely not. They're going to do stupid stuff like the Sega Game Gear Micro. I know I keep bashing on it, but it's just a stupid move. And that stupid Fog service crap they're going to do. I just don't get it. Well, guys, I've been talking forever and watching this live stream I did in October. Thanks for letting me improvise. I'm not actually playing games, by the way. I'm going to go ahead and end the stream here. And I just want to say, again, happy birthday to Sega. Happy 60th anniversary to Sega. Hope you guys get to play a Sega game tonight or tomorrow. And, yeah, I love Sega to death. Absolutely hoping for the best. And I hope they stay viable in the video game world community. I know there's a lot of fans of Sega, and especially the retro games, for sure. Alright, guys. I'm going to go ahead and end the stream here. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching my butchered Sega celebration.